Timothy Longo is the chief of the Charlottesville Police Department. Chief Longo, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
When Yardley's roommate contacted 911, she was concerned apparently that Yardley was suffering from alcohol poisoning. But when police got to the scene, they found that Yardley Love was dead, and there was obvious signs of physical trauma. How do you explain the discrepancy there?
Well, certainly when we arrived on the scene, we're in a far better position to be able to get a look at Yardley's body. I have no idea what the circumstances were where the roommate discovered the body or what she observed at the time of that discovery, but it was clear to us when we arrived on the scene, the medics were already present, the body was turned over, and there were very obvious and apparent injuries to her body, which led the primary units that responded to believe that, in fact, we had a crime scene to secure, and they immediately notified investigators, and we began that investigation.
Chief, where did you find the body exactly, and what were the extent of the injuries? What can you tell us about the injuries?
Well, the body was her body was discovered in her bedroom. I don't want to go into a tremendous amount of detail about the injuries. Part of the reason for that is certainly there's an autopsy scheduled this morning. We'll learn more about the manner and cause of her death and really what the extent of the injuries are. But I can tell you that the injuries were obvious to the officer, and by sight were very severe.
Do you believe there was a weapon used, Chief?
I can't say that there was a weapon used. I can tell you that she wasn't shot. I can tell you that she was likely not stabbed. But I would hesitate to talk about perhaps how those injuries occurred without having an opportunity to review the autopsy report and speak with the Office of the Medical Examiner.
Can you shed any light on the relationship between Yardley Love and George Hughley? I mean, was there any history of violence?
I don't know. There are no reported. There's no reported history of violence to the police. We're obviously talking to friends and teammates to see what might have taken place over the past several weeks or months. We know that there was a romantic relationship between the two. I don't know what the status of that relationship was just 2 days ago, but clearly the relationship and what type of relationship that was is highly relevant to our case, and certainly will be information we'll try to get from friends and teammates.
Yeah, Chief, shortly after you found Yardley's body, you did find Hughley in his apartment nearby. How cooperative was he with the investigators?
He was cooperative throughout the morning, throughout the course of the investigation. I had an opportunity to observe him several times throughout the morning. He was obviously upset by the circumstances that he was in, but he was cooperative. He came to the police station voluntarily. It was during the course of that consensual encounter that probable cause began to develop that brought us to seek a charging document. But I think it's accurate to characterize his behavior as cooperative.
Yeah, what enabled you to bring those charges so quickly? Was it something that he said?
Well,
something that you found?
A combination of factors. I'm certainly not going to disclose the facts and circumstances which gave rise to probable cause. I will say that there were discussions throughout the investigation from the very earliest point with our Commonwealth attorney, who is a prosecuting authority here in the Commonwealth, as well as a magistrate before that charging document was actually presented to us. So these decisions weren't made unilaterally. They were made with consultation with our Commonwealth attorney, and those facts were presented to a magistrate. But I don't feel comfortable talking about specifically what those facts were at this time.
Chief, I know that last night you met with Yardley Love's mother. I'm sure you've been in circumstances like this before. It cannot be easy. What do you say?
You know, the one thing that I did feel important to say to her from the very beginning was this community is very somber. The city of Charlottesville, the University of Virginia, because of the loss of her daughter and all that she contributed to our community in the time that she was here. Clearly, if you talk to her friends, you've talked to her high school coaches and friends, she was a remarkable young lady, a wonderful spirit, and it's a terrible tragedy. And I wanted to make sure that her mother knew just how we were affected by the loss of this young lady, how deeply moved we were by that loss.
We really appreciate you joining us this morning. Charlottesville Police Chief Timothy Longo, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.